Hello and welcome to 60 Minutes or Less, a podcast from Birthday Cake for Breakfast. I'm Andy Hughes and for episode 31 we keep it local, our guest this week being multi-instrumentalist Francesca Pidgeon, aka Dilettante. Known for her work with BC Camplight's band, Pidgeon is also the brainchild and leader of art rock collective Dilettante, putting out their debut album Tantrum in late 2022 after a run of early singles. This year saw the release of the hotly tipped follow-up from Dilettante, new album Life of the Party arriving in late January, the first totally self-produced Dilettante record, said by Pidgeon to be her most personal one yet. We caught up with Pidgeon over Zoom ahead of the release of the record, catching Francesca moments after she arrived home having cycled back from roller derby practice. Talk naturally turned almost immediately to roller derby, as well as the Cha-Cha slide, Twin Peaks and the film Poor Things. We did still find time to talk about the new record, as well as the creative process and picking up odd jobs while working as a full-time musician. Heads up, there's a few audio issues on this one, but we powered on through. As ever, if you like the episode, let us know. Follow us on your favourite streaming platform and follow Birthday Cake for Breakfast on all the socials. Right, on to Dilettante. Enjoy. Hiya.
Hey, sweet.
How you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. Bit tired, but it's all good.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying about the cycling. I am also used to that, where you cycle everywhere and you have to arrive to work or whatever and just be hair stuck on your forehead and yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's all uphill, but then on the way back, it was somehow also all uphill. I don't know how I managed to do that. It's like 45 minutes and then like really intense skating, and then another 45 minutes, but it's fine.
Cheers. Yeah, cheers for making it work today. You've just got back from your roller derby practicing and you've been playing that for 8 years, is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, yeah, on
Yeah,
and off. Obviously, pandemic makes you feel like it's been been less time,
of course, yeah.
long time.
But you said when you found roller derby, it was like you'd found a secret recipe for feeling okay in the world. And it was, like a
Mhm.
group of people and something that you could, yeah, really latch onto. And it was something that you'd been missing. Was it
Mm.
like really quite cathartic just finding that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, so at the time that I found roller derby first, I was like I was having a bit of a bad time, like smoking too much weed, and I was just like, I was not really in a very good place. And I think I was just like really struggling to like, I don't know, like, I mean, yeah, when when you smoke too much weed, you end up just like not being able to sleep or like eat because you're not, I don't know what happens to your brain chemistry or whatever, but I was finding it really hard to like regulate my appetite and like my tiredness basically. And so playing roller derby, I was like, oh, well now I'm really tired, you know, or like, oh, I'm really hungry. And so it was a really, it for me was like a big part of getting over that addiction was finding this other thing, new addiction, you know,
Yeah.
but healthy one. Yeah.
How was your lung capacity after you were smoking all that weed and then playing roller derby?
Well, yeah, no, I mean that's actually why I stopped. I stopped smoking because I realized my voice was just not good. Am I allowed to swear? I just realized I didn't ask that.
Yeah, let's hear it. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say my voice was fucked, but then I was like, can I say that? Yeah, no, it was just yeah, and that was a big thing as well. I was like, I'm not gonna keep doing this if it's gonna mess with my voice. Like that's not worth it. So, but yeah, I do also have asthma, so that's a whole extra layer of difficulty with skating. Yeah,
There's
good.
only so many people that have made smoking weed a career as well, so it's yeah, probably best knock it
Yeah.
on the head. So I do have a list of questions, but something that I read this morning that piqued my interest was your love of DJ Casper's Cha-Cha slide,
Yeah, yeah. That's
which I
yeah,
think,
literally just come out about that just this morning. So
yeah, which yeah, it should really go in every press release. I think it ties in with the new record and what you've mentioned about being ill at ease around other people sometimes, and using like things like the cha-cha slide and finding dance moves as a way to be comfortable around other people. Obviously that came out a long
mhm,
time ago. And people find like mechanisms like growing up, they turn to drugs and booze to be more comfortable around other people
mhm.
rather than dance steps and stuff. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, is that something that's filtered through since, childhood and that feeling of wanting to find
Yeah.
a method.
Yeah. I think I struggle a little bit with like when I feel like there's not like a set, I don't know, like when there's no boundaries and stuff, I feel like a bit ill at ease. And like I guess, yeah, the joke about the cha-cha slide thing is like, well, yeah, I don't want to like dance just based on something I want to do. Like I just want someone to tell me how to dance, you know? And I think that's the same with like social interaction. Like I like knowing the rules, like that's a big thing for me that I guess I didn't really realize isn't necessarily what other people are thinking. I think in my head everyone was like just trying to figure out all the rules all the time, and like I wasn't really aware that other people maybe just found that a bit easier. But yeah, I do have this like like you're talking about, this like really distinct memory of being about 9 and just being like, oh, I love the cha-cha slide. It's so good. He's going to tell me what to do. I don't have to worry. I don't have to talk to anyone. Yeah. But yeah, that's in a lot of the record. It's a lot in the latest video for the title track for Life of the Party. It's the whole video is people sort of showing me like these audience flashcards saying like laugh and smile and applause and drink and smoke and stuff. Yeah, and I guess that's kind of what the whole song is about. It's sort of just feeling, yeah, just feeling like I would like to be told how to do things. Yeah,
In IRL, yeah.
yeah.
I wonder if DJ Casper, when he wrote that song, if he even wrote that song, was thinking, that in 20 years' time or what have you. But it made me think about like, like Saturday night and the Macarena and stuff. It's like just
Mm,
clicked this morning that so many people must be in the same boat as you, but you've been able to actually, come up with like a thought process about it. But that must be so, you know,
yeah.
moments where people can feel so alone in that, but it must be the case for so many different people.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say I like to think so. I don't like to think so, but I mean, I guess I like to think that I'm not just the only one feeling like that. Yeah, the Macarena, another one I liked, to be honest. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess that is why I made all my friends do a choreographed dance routine in the video, is because I was like, I don't know, it'd be nice to, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess music should always be trying to communicate stuff to people that maybe they don't realize other people are feeling as well. I don't know. I mean, that's for me why I do music anyway, is to kind of so that I feel less alone, but also so that other people who feel like me feel less alone, kind of thing.
And it's like it's kind of that whole point of, like with live music, you do get that, don't you, where it feels like everyone's one in the room. And I assume like for
Mm,
yourself,
mm,
from what you've just said, that must be quite a special feeling to have to know that that's occurring, that two-way path.
mm. Yeah, for sure. But again, it's like so structured. And again, that's why in the video it's like half a party scene in my flat and then half of it's on stage, is because I think I've always found it nice, the idea that there's a boundary. And I like sometimes interacting with the audience, but sometimes I just find it a little bit like, I'm like, no, it's you're breaking the thing. Like I'm here and you're there, and it's like it's a structure, and it makes sense to me like that. Whereas, yeah, do you know what I mean? Like it's nice to have a kind of boundary, I guess. I mean, all that to say, like I do actually like talking to the audience. I'm not,
This will
yeah.
be the moment where, yeah, your whole audience turns their backs on you. So, as well as DJ Casper, I saw as well that you'd highlighted that you were researching about Twin Peaks at points during the record and the creation of the Bob character. And as well as that, you've also mentioned Sondheim and, like a love of
Mm.
theatre and stuff like that. Do you find yourself getting a lot of influence from stage and film, or is that just the sort of thing that it's part of your everyday life and it just happens to make up what you interpret in terms of your music, or do you find it influences you?
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where I think sometimes it just influences you and you don't even realize it is usually what's happening. Like I don't think I'm very often kind of consciously sitting down and being like, I'm gonna write a song about Twin Peaks. But I was just watching Twin Peaks and then I was like, oh, Audrey Horne's super cool. And there's this scene, I don't know if you've seen Twin Peaks.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
there's this scene in, I think it's the end of season 1, where Audrey's like in the brothel and her dad comes in and she's like hiding her face behind a mask and stuff. And he's like coming on to her because obviously he doesn't know who she is. And so the last track on the album, The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of is all about that scene basically. Because I just found it really like, oh, it's just horrible. It's just really, yeah, it just kind of made me feel weird, and I guess it made me want to write something. But it's funny because there's so much goes in and you don't kind of realize that it's going in because me and my housemate Aaron, who's also my bassist, we watched Twin Peaks when I was writing the album, and then literally like over the last 2 months we've been rewatching, and it got to that scene, and there's a bit where her dad says, "This is the stuff his dreams are made of." And we
Ah,
were both like, "What?" I totally didn't remember that he said that, but it must have just gone in my brain. It's just so funny, like how stuff just gets in there and you don't even mean for it to, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, loads of the album was Twin Peaksy stuff. I don't know. I think yeah, just trying to do the David Lynch thing of like worrying a little bit less and kind of seeing where stuff takes you and not, you know, trying not to control literally every single thing, which is
yeah.
hard for me. But yeah, I did my best to.
I did think when I saw that you'd mentioned Audrey Horne that you were going to mention that time you first see her and she snoops across the
Hmm.
ballroom,
Hmm.
where all those businessmen are in the meeting and like the music's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
no, the whole
just
the whole her as a
strange.
character is great. She's such a interesting, I don't know. Yeah, I just found her like really fascinating and yeah. Because she's like sexy, but like it's not really about that a lot of the time. It's very interesting.
It's a strange, yeah, the whole like you say, there's a sexiness there, but it's not intentional, but the music
Yeah.
makes it and yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, does that like feel strange then? Like, plucking these things out of nowhere, you think, and then discovering that possibly, oh, this was actually from this or what have you.
Hmm. Hmm. I think it was just a really clear reminder in a really literal way that there isn't really much original and you are kind of always drawing on stuff like even when you don't realize it. But it's fine because it's going through the filter that is your mind and your craft or whatever. So I don't know. It's the kind of thing where like it's not stealing, I wouldn't say. I think it's just borrowing and then kind of remixing almost, it's like collaging with all this different stuff that you think is interesting or gross or whatever, yeah.
Like repurposing it rather than just
Yeah,
plain nicking it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it was funny to see it happen like so just like, oh my God, I took that line and I didn't even know I'd taken that line,
Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy. It
Started up
was very
smoking
Twin
again.
Peaks.
Very Twin Peaks, yeah.
Yeah.
On that sort of thing as well, you've also name checked Andy Schoaf and Harry Nielsen and
Hmm.
those being influences. And in the title track alone, I find it's very Julia Jacklin, in like some of the guitar work as well.
Hmm.
Is that like, again, is that a notable thing where you're like, oh, maybe I could make this a bit Nielsen-esque, or is it again just influences just going onto you and then just filtering through that?
Yeah, I think it's the kind of thing where like it's not too much of a problem to say. Sometimes I sit down and I'm like, I'm gonna write a song as though I was Harry Nilsson, and I'm not, so it's fine. Like I'm not gonna write a Harry Nilsson song, unfortunately. But you know what I mean? Like it's the kind of thing where it's an interesting tool to kind of sit down and say like, oh, I wonder if I could do that. I wonder if I could be. I mean, sometimes that the influence thing is more on the side of like it's like especially with someone like Andy Schauf, I feel like I was kind of doing I was doing a lot of the stuff that I like in his music, and then I was like, oh, people like him, and now I can use him as like a, oh, well, if you like that, then you might like me kind of thing, because he's like a woodwind player or whatever, and he's doing lots of like, like soft stuff with clarinets and things, and so it's a bit of one of those where, yeah, it's almost like it's an after the fact kind of thing. I'm like, oh, that was a bit Andy Schauf, maybe,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
necessarily like I'm sitting down and saying, I'm gonna write an Andy Schauf song like I would with Harry Nilsson or whatever. Yeah, I guess it's just really complicated. I guess it's like you're just taking a bunch of stuff in and then seeing what comes out.
Yeah. Seeing what
Yeah,
sticks.
yeah, exactly.
And do you have like any other like creative practices where, because I read recently a thing where when David Bowie was in the studio with something, he got everyone to take a scrap of paper and draw something, and then they all revealed what they'd drawn, and it was all like
Mm.
almost the same thing. So, like, do you have any sort of practices where, you say, I'm going to sit down and what if I wrote it like it was a Nielsen song? Have you got anything else like that you do?
I don't know, to be honest. Like, I'm trying to think. I definitely do, but I'm like off the top of my head, I'm struggling to think of anything. I mean, there's always just, I guess for me, because I'm a multi-instrumentalist, like, it's always kind of a case of I can just be like, oh, I've been doing a lot on piano recently. Maybe I'll start a song with some drums, you know. And then because I'm not like super proficient at anything, it kind of works. I don't know. I think taking stuff to instruments that you're not comfortable with as well is a really interesting way to go. Like if you just, I don't know. There was a song, was it on? Yeah, it was on this record. There's a song called Cake, and it's like a piano song, but then there's all this like flutey shit going on. I can't play the flute. Like I was just making noises, but like something came out of me just going like doo that became like the melody because I didn't know what I was doing. And I think like not knowing what you're doing and then just having a go is like I think that's a really interesting way of working. And I never know what I'm doing, so it's it's really easy.
Is there anything similar to the flute where you're like, maybe this needs a bit of this, or is there anything that you want to try? Like, I don't know what that instrument's called, where it looks like a little face and it's got like a flute end, that makes a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
face. Yeah.
The what's it called? The oh fuck. I got one for my friend
Oh,
like a
right.
few
Okay.
years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What the fuck is this?" Yeah, what did we put quite a lot of stylophone on this record.
Right.
So that like really old like it makes a funny
With the pen.
like arcadey sound. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that was fun because that's again, it's kind of limiting because it's this big and you have to play it with a pen and you can't play more than one note. And you almost have to do loads of chromatic stuff because you can't move it really very fast. So like stuff like that was cool. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I think I used to play French horn in a there was this weird bit of time where in Leeds, I grew up in Leeds, and they were trying to get girls to play brass instruments. So they just were like, "Oh, yeah, do you want a French horn?" And I was like, "Yeah." All right. So I got a free French horn for like 3 years. They just like rented it to me for free. So I used to play that when I was kind of 18 and I was I was in Lee's Youth Orchestra for some I definitely shouldn't have been in there. I didn't know how to read music. So I was like I was sitting there and I was miming basically. But it was really nice. It was really nice being in an orchestra because I've never done that before because I can't actually play anything like via like reading music. So I definitely was a total like imposter syndrome, but like for a reason. Like I wasn't an actual imposter. But yes, I was doing that for like a few years when I was younger. And then I think I was playing some songs and I was like, I'd really like some French horn in this, I think. It's a really nice, like round, kind of warm brass. Like I've played a bit of like trumpet and trombone on the other records. But yeah, I mean, they were things that I just picked up for like 50 quid, you know. Whereas French horns, I don't know, they're pretty expensive. And I messaged the guy who was in touch with when I was younger with the French horn. And he was like, "Oh well, I'll just lend you one of mine. That's fine." So like last Christmas, I met with him, and he lent me his French horn. Big ups, Stephen Wild. Yeah, and then I just played a bunch all over the record, and it was nice. It was nice to just to play again. Yeah, it's just I like playing lots of instruments. It's that you get so much different stuff out of every single one. So again, especially if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the kind of lack of context with living in Leeds and they just wanted girls to play brass instruments. That seems.
Yeah, it must have just been one of those weird like funding things where they're like, "Oh, we got all this money for something. I don't know. There's no girls playing French horn. Quick, throw a bunch out." Like, I don't know. I don't know if they still do that. Was that a Labour government? I think it was at the time, maybe. So maybe not so much recently.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
seems like something that Leeds would do. It's a very musical city, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was nice. It was a nice place to grow up. I almost wish I hadn't grown up there so I could have moved there as an adult, what I mean? And have it be nice. But
Yeah, it is nice to visit Leeds, having not grown up there. Yeah, so I imagine that's different. But I
mm,
suppose, obviously, if you grew up in Leeds, you got that with Manchester, because I think you live in Manchester, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But on the the other influencers side of thing, we'll get off influencers in a minute. I appreciate it's taken up most of the chat so far.
No, it's
But
all good. It's all good.
but you've highlighted the film Poor Things and Emma Stone's character and finding her relatable in how she questions polite society. Seeing that film in respect of some of the other stuff that you've written about in respect of this new record, was it kind of a light bulb moment when you were watching the film in the way that she views how everyone else interacts and obviously her circumstances in the film? Was that kind of a pivotal moment for you?
Yeah, I was watching it and I don't know. I think I was sat there and I just kept finding myself being like, yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, that makes sense. And then but everyone was treating her like she was this freak and I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'm a freak. Yeah, it was nice. I think it was a really good movie and I think she was like phenomenal in it. I think yeah, it was nice to just see. I don't know. I think sometimes I come at things in a really sort of like I think maybe some of it comes from like I've not properly had a job, right? Like so I've been a full-time musician for like 8 years and I before that was just working in bars and stuff. And then I actually moved to Manchester to become a full-time musician because I went busking once and I was like, oh my God, I make so much money doing this, like way more than in Leeds. I'm gonna move here. And it was still a reasonable sort of price for rent back then. So, but yeah, I think some of it comes from that where I'm just like, I don't really feel like I've had to do a lot of like the growing up, inverted commas, stuff that people do. So maybe I'm a little bit I don't know. I don't think it's immaturity. I think maybe I've just been given a lot more time to like play, and I think that element her character sort of really resonated with me because I felt like yeah, like why wouldn't you just like I don't know, like have fun with it, you know? Yeah, I don't know. Like not in all ways. Obviously, she was a bit of a freak, like in a bit more than me, but yeah.
Do you find that the people around you, like you say, because of you becoming a full-time musician and that being your career, I'm sure that in the circles you move around, you still have people that are doing the same as you and they're making a go of it and they are
Mm,
living as a musician. But then I'm sure you've got other people as well who are just straight into a job and doing what have you. And do you find
mm.
that, that dynamic a bit of a strange one as well in the fact that you're able to, as you say, look at it this way, whereas they're obviously looking at it in a different way and get the mortgage, get this, get that, and yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, well, it's a funny one. It's like so my one of my little brothers is he lives in Leeds and he's got three kids and a fiance and they bought a house and all this stuff and it's all very like he's done like the opposite of what I have. But like I think he was always going to. And it's a bit of a funny one where you like look at us from children and I guess there's maybe like a bit more of a like a risk-taking bit in my personality that maybe he doesn't have. But it's the kind of thing where I can go and visit them and I'm like, they're so happy and it's so nice and always really it's always really nice for me to get to and go and see them and like be in their house and like see all like cats and the kids and it's all very like stable and I guess I just that doesn't super appeal to me. Like I like the flexibility of just I can kind of do whatever. I have this thing where I end up just doing like weird jobs, like not for really any reason other than just like I like experiencing new stuff and I like learning stuff. So my bassist Aaron, who I live with, he for like 7 years was a full-time like charity fundraiser. So when I was making the album, actually, I spent like 2 months just doing that for no real reason. Like, like obviously it was a bit of money, but like I could have just been doing music. But it was interesting to just go out and be like, oh, this is what it's like to do this job. It's just people just like ignore you in the street and like shout at you and
Yeah.
it was horrible. It was really horrible. Like honestly, one of the hardest jobs. But I think that's good. I think it's like valuable to have those experiences and just keep trying to do new stuff. Like I started doing a bit of temp work at Johnny Roadhouse in Manchester, just like fixing guitars. And that's been great. That's been such an interesting like learning curve, and I've just learned so much about guitars that I didn't know. And so again, I guess that's the bit of Emma Stone's character that really appealed to me was her curiosity. and just like, what's this? Like, how does this work? And I guess that's how I feel, and how I sometimes feel that other people are not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think
Do you
that's a very like musician-y thing. Like if you want to find out about stuff, like an artistic thing. It's curiosity, really.
I was going to say, like, just hearing what you said about working at Johnny Roadhouse, do you think, because not everyone would say that's the job I'm going to go and do, but that is a job that you can find yourself jumping into because, like you say, you might say, I've got some time away from music for a bit, I'll do this. So do you think creatively, or creative types rather, do have those opportunities where they can jump into interesting roles because they do have that flexibility?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the main reason that I haven't gone and gotten like a real job is because I just don't know if I could give up that freedom, even though it's really difficult sometimes being self-employed because, for example, like the last place that I lived, they wanted all my rent up front for the year because they were like, well, we don't know. And I was like, I've been doing it for 7 years. Like, we kind of do know, but it's fine. Yeah, I mean, there's like that element of it. And again, this is a lot of stuff that I have you read The Unbearable Lightness of Being at all by Milan Kundera?
No.
So that's like one of my favorite books. That's again, I think that's in my press stuff is that like the song Stone is written about that. It's basically like it's kind of it's he is an interesting one. His whole thing is very like it's fiction, but it always feels a little bit like written like sort of essay style to me anyway. That's how it feels. But that book is about basically like lightness and heaviness and like the trade-offs between it. So, for example, like being single versus being married. And like being married is heavy, but it's like grounding. And I guess yeah, I guess I just haven't been able to give up the lightness of being able to say, I can do that. Fine, I'll come in and fix some guitars. That sounds great. That sounds fun. I'll do that for a bit. And you're not tied to anything. And I guess I really like that.
With the book as well, was that like obviously all these thoughts are already going on and have been going on in your life, but was that similar to seeing the film, like reading the book and being like, oh
Mm.
right, yeah, this is
Yeah, I love Milan Kundera. I've read I think most of his books, and they're all very like samey, but I just find them so readable. I don't really know why. So I read Unbearable Lightness of Being when I was like 18, and then I kind of periodically kind of come back to it every few years. I'll reread it, and it's always feels pretty like new. And there's always a new thing where I'm like, oh yeah, that's an interesting element. But yeah, I think reading his stuff, yeah, for sure, was a bit of that moment as well.
yeah. And on that, what you talked about before, do you find the want to focus on art and, being able to jump about rather than settle down and stick to like, a monogamous relationship and being 2.4 children or whatever it's called and, all
Hmm.
these
Hmm.
cats running about. Do you think that is, yeah, something that is possibly societal that is just different from the norm? Because, I speaking from personal experience, like with my partner, there's from some members of her family, there are, as soon as you turn 30, it is like,
Hmm.
where's the kids? And so do you find that is like a big pressure that is kind of forced upon you?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a funny one because I think I've never ever wanted children. Like, and maybe you know what, this might all change because I had a conversation with my mum where she was like, "Oh yeah, I never wanted children. I never wanted children." Then I hit 33 and suddenly I wanted children. And she's like, anyone that I knew in my 20s is amazed that I have 3 kids, kind of thing. So I don't know. Maybe one day I'll just wake up and be like, "Oh God, I just have to have children." But I've never found that appealing. I really like being an auntie. Like being an auntie is great. I just get to show up and like be fun and then leave, which is great. I'm into that. So it's kind of a funny one because I feel the pressure, but I also kind of don't care. Like it doesn't really affect me that much because I just know what I want and I know that I'm not gonna just do a thing because someone's like, oh, that's the thing that you do now. But there is like a weird thing. So like I got laser eye surgery last year because I was super blind and I was like, I got a big artist grant and I was like, I'm gonna see, it's gonna be great. But when I was at some of the consultations, they were like, oh, well, like when you have children, you'll have to say this to them. You have to say that you had laser eye surgery. And I was like, what do you mean when I have children? Like, what a weird, I don't know. It's so strange to me that that's just like, oh yeah, when you have kids. I don't know. That's never been really on the cards for me. I don't know. It's not, I can't look after anything. Can't look after plants, you know.
And also, it's a
And
crazy
also,
it's a crazy question
sorry.
because you don't know what is going on in someone's
Hmm.
circumstances. Like I
Hmm.
remember even getting a joint bank account where the guy in the bank was pretty much talking to me and
Yeah.
talking about my partner as if she wasn't there, and it was like, you know, she's sat right there, right?
Classic.
And it
Classic
is
move.
just, yeah, it is just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously you're the breadwinner, right? That's how it works.
Well, apparently so, yeah. Talking of poor things and the way of thinking and realizing that things are different and such, you've mentioned elsewhere that neurodivergence has been a big thing for you in recent years, and realizing that experience of the world was different to that of others. A lot of people find discovery of that, whether it be a diagnosis or even just realizing that neurodivergence is even a thing, is such a big eye opener for them. And do you feel like that was kind of the case for yourself? Just realizing that these things were out there,
Yeah.
in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the kind of thing where, so I think it was not last November, the one before. I was on tour with BC Camplight, and one of my bandmates is like diagnosed autistic, and I was having a conversation with him about. I was telling him about this thing when I was a kid where instead of instead of making friends, I would walk around the playground, like writing down, like observing and writing down what all the popular girls were doing. Because I was like, well, that's how I'll get popular is I'll just write it all down and then I'll do it. And then that's, oh, okay, that's the ticket. That's how you do it. He was like, have you ever been diagnosed? And I was like, no, but I guess that that does sound very very autistic, doesn't it? So it's like, like I don't have a diagnosis, like I don't know, but it was not really something that I'd ever considered, I guess. And it was nice to just, it was nice to just be like, oh, well, maybe that's why, I don't know, because I guess I've always felt sort of left out of things. And I think sometimes I kind of chalk that up to just being, like a woman in music and stuff, like, and you can kind of write off as that and be like, oh, well, it's just because I'm the only girl in the band and that's why I feel left out. But sometimes I think it's not that, sometimes, I mean, I feel left out in a group of girls a lot of the time. I went a hen do and it was absolutely awful and I didn't didn't understand what anyone was doing or where anyone was coming from, And so, yeah, it was just nice to be like, oh, well, maybe I'm not like maybe it's not my fault, I guess, and maybe it's okay. Like it's okay to I don't know. I mean, I'm a little bit glad that I never I remember my mum taking my youngest brother to see if he was autistic when we were younger because he was a real strange child. Um, and then I was kind of like, why would you never take me? And she was like, well, I guess people just didn't take girls. They just didn't. And because I was good in school and I didn't really make a fuss, but I was obviously like not I was obviously struggling like socially. I obviously didn't really understand. I, would get bullied and I would get kind of, I don't know, I just never had more than like one or two good friends. And it was very like, but again, you can chalk up to like, oh, she's an introvert, she's just shy, she's socially anxious or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I guess with a lot of these things like autism and ADHD, I think a lot of people are kind of finding out about them and realizing that all of their problems are maybe just one thing. Like one of my friends is saying he thinks he's ADHD, and he's like, oh well, I thought I had like anxiety and like all this other stuff, and then he's like, well, maybe it's just this one thing, or maybe it's just all related to this one thing, and it's kind of nice to be like, oh yeah, maybe it is that. But yeah, I don't know. It's the kind of thing where it's like I don't want to jump a bandwagon. Obviously, it feels like everyone is getting diagnosed, but I mean, also I'm like, is that the echo chamber thing where like all of my friends are getting diagnosed because all
Yeah.
of my friends are maybe we're all just neurodivergent or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's a funny thing because I don't have any kind of like doctor's opinion on this. I just know that like some of the stuff I've read about autism and all that feels like it makes sense to me. And even if it's not that, I guess it's still nice to know that other people feel like that and that other people struggle with stuff. I think you just have this tendency to be like, oh, everyone's fine. I'm just having a terrible time for no reason. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a difficult seesaw as well, isn't it? Because I understand what you mean about, it completely opening your eyes to certain things, but as well, you don't want to jump on a bandwagon where some people might not be doing what they're saying for the right reasons and actual
Hmm. Hmm.
personal reasons. And that thing that you said about your mum when you were a kid not taking you for the diagnosis seems crazy, but also not that crazy because obviously I take it you were born in the 90s and
Hmm.
that's, it's not
Yeah.
it's not like that was 100 years ago, but also I could believe that mums might not be taking their children as late as the
Yeah.
2000s and the 2010s.
Yeah. I think it was just the kind of thing where like if kids were having problems, then they'd be like, "Oh, well, maybe we'll find out why they have a problem." And so my little brother was like a little bit I think he probably was ADHD and is probably ADHD, but like he was struggling in school because he was like smart but couldn't concentrate, whereas I just would get on with it. And again, like actually one thing that I found really was nice to read about was the idea of masking because I'd never thought about that. And I guess I'd never even considered that I could be like on the spectrum at all because I was like, well, nobody thinks that. Like nobody's saying that to me. So obviously that's not what it is. Like people think I'm a bit weird, but like nobody's saying like, "Hey, are you autistic?" Like, and so I just kind of had written it off. And then I was like, "Oh, well, no, maybe that thing that I do where I like where I'm really like struggling to understand social stuff, but I'm working really hard to do it right. Maybe that's what that is, and that was actually really nice. Because even if it's not that I'm actually on the spectrum or whatever, it's nice to know that that's a thing that people do, and maybe that is what I'm doing, and that's why I get so tired. And I think the reason all this came out when it did is because I'd stopped drinking. It was this tour. I did like 3 tours sober, and I just was like, this is awful. Like I think I was just drinking because I was like, I don't want to talk to anyone. And if I'm drunk, I can talk to people and I don't feel like a weirdo because I'm not thinking about it as much. And I don't know. And again, yeah, useful to maybe realize that I think that that's a thing, right? I think, yeah, that you kind of like self-medicate almost with that kind of, yeah, just, oh, I'll get drunk and then people will like me. You know? Like that fun Bobby character in Friends is always what I think of. That's such a bad thing that they did where they're like, oh yeah, this guy, he's really fun when he's drunk, you know? Oh, he's awful when he's sober. And I'd always be like, oh, that's me. Like, I'm Fun Bobby. I'm the guy that nobody likes when they're sober because I'm too serious and I'm not loose and I'm not fun. And then I get drunk and I'm like, hey, like, life of the party, That's the whole idea, I guess. Yeah.
And fun Francesca does sound that does work, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You love the alliteration.
But yeah, I mean, has that been obviously, it's helped you in terms of knowing that these things are out there and such, but has it also, made you, like you say, with the sober tours and what have you, just look at things differently in terms of like the way you go about it from not only Dilettante, but also working with other musicians and such?
Yeah, I think I can't remember who talks about this, but there's that idea of like the examined life or whatever, where you kind of just, yeah, just always should be trying to see things differently and trying to do things differently. And so like the sober thing was, like really good for me, I think, because it was just like, oh, like I don't think you really realize that you have a problem with something until you kind of go, shit. Like I don't know, especially I think I struggled with the BC Camplight tours more because I was doing less on stage. Like when it's dilettante, I've got like it's all loop pedals and there's like a million moving parts, so I actually can't play the shows and be drunk, you know. Whereas BC, like it's not my show, so the pressure's kind of off, and there's moments where I'm not doing anything, and it's the kind of thing where I'm like, what do I do with my hands? Like, oh, I need a drink, so I've got something to do with my hands, which is stupid. But no one's telling me what to do with my hands, so that's what I gotta do. That's rock and roll, right? Have a drink. Yeah,
That
I
that
don't
is
know. Yeah.
that is the literal worst, isn't it? Where you're like, my
Hmm.
hands are empty. Like even if you're at a gig and you're like, well, my hands are empty.
Yeah,
I guess
yeah,
they got to go in some pocket somewhere. But
yeah, right. Yeah,
famously, women's clothes as well don't have pockets for a
I
lot
know, it's true. What am I
of.
supposed to do? I
Yeah,
did get really into non-alcoholic Guinness. That was good. That's good stuff.
yeah, I've
That
heard
kind of
that.
makes you feel drunk because you're like, oh, the taste of this should make me drunk, you know, but you're not, and it's interesting sort of placebo effect.
Yeah, the funny you said, about the loop pedal stuff as well. It's something that I've always been fascinated with, and I can imagine is the case whenever you see it live. It seems like a teetering knife edge of
Yeah.
whether it's gonna work or whether it's gonna, and
Yeah.
even like people like I'm sure you've been doing loop pedal stuff for a long time, but even when you watch people doing loop pedal stuff, in their head you can see the cogs going of whether it's
Yeah.
actually gonna work.
Yeah.
What is it that draws you to that sort of using that sort of equipment and such? What is it that you find
Mm.
so, I don't know what
Yeah.
the term is for it, but what is it you
Yeah.
like so much about it?
Yeah. I got my first loop pedal when I was like when I started playing music, really. Like it was the first thing I got. I was using like my brother's guitar, and then I got a loop pedal because I was like, well, I don't have any friends, or like, yeah, that's probably an exaggeration, but I was like, I want to write music, and I want to be able to put layers in, but I don't want to have to rely on other people. Was essentially, I'm a megalomaniac, is what drew me to it. Like that's the whole thing. And then I guess yeah, because I wanted sax parts in the songs. I wanted woodwind, but it's really difficult to find, woodwind players that are available when you need them to be. So I think just being able to do it myself, I was like, well, this is great. Like I barely need anyone. There's a long time when Dilettante was just me and Aaron, the bassist, and Jack, the drummer, and it would all just be like vocal layers, and that was, it was all harmonies with loops and stuff. I don't think there's a guitar looping. I feel like guitar looping is a little bit lame sometimes. I don't know. I'm sure some people can do it well, but for me, I'm like, it's about like percussion and vocals and sax. Like that's where I want to do the looping. But yeah, we've kind of I say recently, we've been having a fourth member for the last few years, and it's really nice to kind of take a bit of the pressure off the loop pedal because the first dilettante show we ever played, actually, I was using this TC Helicon thing and it broke like 5 minutes before the show. And so we were like, oh, we've got like two songs then. So, because there was only two songs we could play without the loop pedal. So it's nice to know that now, we could kind of get by. If God forbid, the loop pedal broke, it would be like, okay, they're still there. It's fine. It's fine. We
Yeah.
can do this. But yeah, I think the loop pedal, I don't know, I just love it. I love loop pedals. When I was in Johnny Roadhouse, I was behind the thing like fixing a guitar and I heard someone talking about getting an RC6 and I kind of like came out and was like, "Oh, you want the RC30, mate?" Like yeah, no, just I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just love them. They do what I want them to do, which is make many copies of myself. And I think because I write like quite short, like chord sequences a lot of the time, that kind of works. I was kind of trying to step away from that this album actually, but yeah, for some of the songs still, it's nice to just be like, okay, it's like two chords, and that's the whole song.
Yeah. In terms of that, you're saying about you stepping away from that and maybe focusing on different stuff and also just getting a fourth member in recent years. I
Mm.
read that with Dilettante, it was kind of born out of a fear of you wanting to not commit to a single lineup.
Yeah.
Whereas with this record, with the second album, you've kind of let your bandmates in on the recordings.
Mm.
So
Mm.
how was that to relinquish a bit of
Mm.
control and, bring them in?
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice, I guess, because every other record has been like co-produced. So this is the first one that I've solely produced. I guess I did get to ultimately be a megalomaniac. But like it was nice to go into I had them in my freight container where I do all the recording. And yeah, like Katie and Caitlin, two of my singers, just came and like sang what they wanted to sing. And then I just edited it down later. But it's nice to just to have a different voice. Like I'd never put anyone else's voice on the record. And now when I hear people not putting other people's voices on record and they're doing all the harmonies, like on the actual record, I'm a bit like, oh no, you should let other people do it. It's nice. Like it feels big, it feels full. Like, you know, it's nice to have your friends on there and stuff, you know. All those bits where like we were all just like we just had like one mic and we're all just like hitting some percussion and it's just like random. And yeah, I think you need that kind of energy sometimes. You need other people to come in and give you that energy and just give you new ideas and stuff. Even if it's just like a little thing, like someone maybe hitting the percussion at like a slightly inopportune moment, and then you're like, oh well, maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's the David Lynch thing, right? You just go, oh, that mistake. Oh, maybe we followed a mistake.
Yeah, with the Bob coming back to that,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
Was there ever, is there ever the flip side to that where someone might tink a can and you're like, don't do that again?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just every rehearsal is just me being like, no, no, not true. No, no. To be honest, like my band are great. Like they're very tasteful musicians. There's not, I find it doesn't really happen very often that I'm like, oh, that was awful. Like they're all very good, so it's fine.
In terms of the self-production and, going alone with the record, how was it having that freedom and not having to rely on someone giving you the thumbs up? How did you find that?
Mm. It was really scary. Like right before I started doing it, I was on a Zoom call with like my management, and I just was like having a cry because I was like, I can't do it. Like, I don't know how to do it by myself. But I do know how to do it by myself. I think production's a funny one because I think for years as well, I didn't credit myself as a producer for stuff I was doing because I was like, oh, well, I'm not like pressing the buttons, so like I'm not a producer. But I was arranging all the parts and I was deciding what happened on it. And I kind of didn't really understand producer in that kind of the broad way that it actually is meant, you know, which is like you're deciding how the song sounds. And like obviously with this one I was pressing record and I was doing all the buttons. Yeah, I don't know, it's a funny one. Like I think I found this with I've talked to a lot of girls about this, women about this. Um, and kind of, yeah, I think we've all done that where we're like really specific about what we want on a track and then we do it. And then we'll like give the producing credit to the guy that just pressed record. And I'm like, he didn't produce it. He just fucking put him, you know, like, I don't know. Yeah. So I think it's been nice. It's been really, it's been sort of, what's the word? It's felt good. It felt like a good confidence building exercise to know that I could do it, you know, and to know that I could make the decisions. I really struggle with making decisions, you know, and it was I think good for me to just go, okay, I have to make all the decisions and it's fine and I'll figure out. But hard at times and lonely at times.
Yeah, I
Which is
bet.
probably why I got the band more involved. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But you've said that elsewhere that, producing it yourself, a lot of stuff has started to come together for you, and it's tied up a lot of musical loose ends for you, by the sounds of it, that being one of them, in realizing that, oh, I've been producing my records, or at least parts, for
Mhm.
so long. So deciding to do that, has that been so beneficial in just opening things up for you, not just in a musical sense, but, just in the way of looking at things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so I started doing a bit of producing for other people now, and it's great. And then I realized I was like, oh, this is what I like. Like I like doing this. Like I like putting a woodwind arrangement on something, and I like, yeah, I mean, that's where I really enjoy music is in the studio. And it's been really nice to just kind of know I can do it, and then offer up that to other people and say like, oh, well, if you want this doing, I can do it. Which is, I guess I never thought I never thought that I would be able to do that because I was like, oh, I don't have all the technical know-how. But I also do have all the technical know-how. Turns out, because I've been doing it for a million years, I do know a lot of stuff. But yeah, you kind of just don't give yourself that credit. I think as well when you think like, oh, I'm a musician and I do the, you know, whatever, I'm a songwriter and I just write songs and I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely guilty of self-deprecation, obviously. Like the whole band name is, is self-deprecation. Um, so yeah, it was nice to just yeah, kind of go, no, I can do it. It's fine. And you know, it turned out fine.
Yeah. And I appreciate, we're almost coming up to like an hour, I think, and I want you to get back to whatever you're doing. But in terms of the record itself, you've said that it's that classic second album thing of, you said it's some of the weirdest stuff you've put out, but also some of the poppiest stuff that you put out.
Mhm.
In terms of like looking at the record as a whole, you
Mhm.
must be pretty pleased in terms of not only, that you've come at it from a producing it yourself standpoint, but also like you say, it's weirder, it's poppier, and yeah, you must be pretty pleased with it.
Yeah, I think it did what I wanted it to do. I don't know. I mean, I did my best. Like that's all you can ever do. I worked really hard and I went in every day and I wrote whatever I wrote, And yeah, I guess that's all it's about really, right? I find it a bit difficult to like listen to anything that's this fresh. So I don't know. I don't know if it's any good. I had a big meltdown like a few months ago and I we got this bad review, which had come out before the album had even come out because it was originally due out in October. But I was being a perfectionist, and they were like, let's just move it to January. It's fine. But we accidentally got this review from this like fairly prominent magazine that was just like, basically just like, this is a mess. Like, what is going on? It's crazy. Like the words that we keep quoting in the band are, she said it was maximalist to the point of exhaustion. Which I'm like, yeah, you know what? Fine. It was maximalist. Fine. I like being a maximalist. Like, fuck you. It's all good. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's still a bit close. It's hard to tell. But yeah, I think I did my best. And yeah, I think it's good. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, it's only come out yesterday. I do think, though, you've at least got a title for the third record, Maximalist to the Point of Exhaustion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely going on all the posters for this one as well.